Hello, everyone, and I hope everyone's doing good. Um, Doing a little tropical update here. It's been pretty active the last few days with models and the way these models are trying to impact the 94L here. Um, it's been very tricky. It's been very hard to sort of pinpoint what's going on. However, I do think confidence is growing slightly of potential East Coast impacts. However, it's not set in stone. It's not really with high confidence either. I'd say probably, around 30 to 40% chance the East Coast sees um, something in the terms of maybe a low end hurricane, tropical storm. So that's just sort of my um, sort of thought on it as of now. But I think East Coast really needs to pay attention. So we have Humberto. Um, this is going to be a key piece for uh, 94L, with I believe the name Imelda would be next after Humberto. I believe that is right, but um, Humberto will be directly impacting 94L on, I think, on whether it turns in more inland or more out to sea. We're going to be focusing on 94L in this video. There also is a 90% chance of it forming in the next probably 3 days, so 7 days, and then a 70% chance in the next 2 days. I think once it's sort of, I think the circulation is a bit more further south than what it kind of shows here. I'm thinking it's probably more, just from what I've seen the last hour or two, probably more down here. But once it passes, Hispaniola, it goes into the Bahamas. That's when it's going to really going to start to strengthen. Let's look at our infrared satellite loop here, and we can see you can kind of sort of barely see maybe some sort of maybe slight mid-level circulation there. But most of our cool top cloud tops here are going to be south of Hispaniola. Um, this will be slowly moving off to the northwest over today, and then probably make its way north of Hispaniola and south of the Bahamas by evening or later tonight. Hopefully that is the case because there are some very flooding prone areas across Hispaniola, so hopefully this thing can start moving. But I guess that's probably not going to be the best thing for the East Coast because the faster 94L moves ahead of Humberto, the higher chances there are of East Coast impacts. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it's as simple as that, but that's one of the main pieces of sort of, information, question mark, as you could probably say, that we don't know yet. And we don't know, and that's going to be such a key factor on where 94L goes. So in the next few days, next day or two, we'll sort of pinpoint that out. The models will sort of probably pinpoint that, especially when Amelia forms and develops that sort of center of low pressure near the low levels. So that will um, that will be definitely something to look out for the next 24 to 48 hours. All right, I'm going to look at our tropical depression probabilities from this is the Euro ensembles. I'm just going to sort of let this play out a little bit here. This is Wednesday night. Um, we can see sort of a decent split here. This is Humberto. We can see it's sort of normal. Its line of probabilities is right through here. But then we have a split. We have a more western track and a more eastern track. And I wish I had sort of like a drawing tool here, but where my mouse is here, this is our eastern track of 94L and western track. So ensembles are still fairly split on the idea of the track of it and where it's going to go. But we do see that heightens, slightly heightened chance across the East Coast, South Carolina, North Carolina, of about 30–40%. This is something to watch. Ensembles, like I said, still having that sort of split um, track here, and that's sort of what we've been dealing with the last 2 days and trying to forecast this thing. It's been almost, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's been very, very difficult. Let's check our GFS ensembles here. The lower chance on the southeast coast here. Kind of more interestingly enough, most of them seem like to have this more western track, and then maybe um, Humberto sort of picks it up and then sort of curves it out, and then you have a few of them hitting the southeast coast. So that's just the main thing. We have the potential for this thing to start to go up through the Bahamas and then sort of curve out once it sort of starts approaching the southeast coast, or it's going to go through the Bahamas and then go through um, the coast there and not turn out and hit sort of somewhere along the southeast coast. But again, Euro has more of a bullish, if you would want to call it that, more of a bullish sort of run. This is from last night, those 60, both the Euro and GFS. So definitely interesting. I do want to do this GFS ensemble Invest 94L, and yeah, it's an absolute mess. Once there's pretty good confidence that it will go through Hispaniola and then enter the South Bahamas. That's about all we really know. And once it reaches the South Bahamas, we can see like you can see most of them sort of heading up through the coast here. Fairly weak as well, 980 to 100 um, HPA is what they label it as. But we see most of them sort of going through the East Coast, heading that way. But we also have a good bit sort of curving out to a sea here. So again, lots of uncertainty. Check our euros. Um, Euro is, again, you have a few that go out to sea, but most of them now are sort of heading up the East Coast. Fairly weak still. You have a few stronger runs here, closer to Charleston, but it's still fairly weak. Tropical storm will bring lots of rain. Really, no matter what this thing does, either curves out to sea or goes inland. I think it is going to bring some heavy rain across the East Coast, regardless. Much needed heavy rain, but the Euro is more sort of concentrated, going through the Bahamas and having some sort of impact on the East Coast. So this is the latest Euro here, and this is just the lower wind heights here, or the lower altitude heights, atmospheric heights, and then we have our cyclonic vorticity, which just sort of, you know, is able to sort of pinpoint these tropical cyclones and the amount of lift it will have um, within them. And we can see here, Imelda sort of comes out of the Bahamas here, sort of hugs the East Coast, and then just sort of slams into the Charleston area, and then sort of stalls out here as Humberto it gets sort of stuck behind that upper level low, that digging trough across the Tennessee Valley, and then gets stuck between Humberto here, and it's sort of forced to, according to this model, it's sort of kind of forced to stay in the same place, kind of stalled out roughly. So not good, not necessarily the best case scenario. But also, this is just one model run. This is just an idea of what could happen. Um, I don't think as of now we'll have really a significant storm hitting the East Coast in terms of the strength of it. And then here is the GFS. Just want to we can see this cold front. This is the cold front that's going to be coming through this weekend, bringing the chances of storms across the East Coast as well. You can sort of see the spin of our upper level low too, right through here. Um, right here. You can sort of see it, and then um, that's going to sort of get pushed back to the west as Amelia comes up here. And again, um, GFS and Euro are very, very similar on that southern South Carolina sort of impact there. Um, so model, I will say this: the models the last 12 hours or so have really kind of come together and started to produce these similar outputs. So that is not normally a good thing. I do think we have another day or so before we really find out where this thing will go. But this is not a good trend. This is definitely not a good trend. So these are our short range models here. Our short range hurricane models. Um, this is the HRIF model, HWRF. It's these are typically these are typically pretty good to use and important to look at. Um, but sometimes they do overdo the like sort of convection, overall strength of a tropical storm. So I'm not really looking much at the strength of our low pressure or our tropical storm slash hurricane. I'm kind of just more focused on the tracks these short range models have. So this is like I said, the HWRF model here, and we can already see how yeah, okay, so I will say this is about where the low pressure is, maybe a little bit further south, but this has a better sort of idea on where our center of low pressure is, even though we technically don't have one, but in the mid levels. And we can sort of see this um, move across, and then this is Hispaniola, Dominican Republic, Haiti. This will sort of quickly move north over the day, and then by evening time, it should be sort of north of Hispaniola. And it kind of struggles. It sort of struggles to um, get some sort of um, convection development around that center. It's really spread out, this evening through tonight. But it eventually gets its act together once it gets into the southern Bahamas and starts to strengthen a good bit here. And here's the East Coast. This is, Myrtle Beach area, this Wilmington area. And yeah, this is going to, 965, I believe, is a high-end Cat 2. Could be a low-end Cat 3, but I believe this is a high-end Cat 2. Having it slamming the sort of the Wilmington area, bringing potential severe weather across the New Bern, sort of Outer Banks region, and then flooding rains inland and across sort of southeastern um, or excuse me, northeastern South Carolina. But yeah, the track there, sort of southeastern North Carolina. This is the HMON here. Another just hurricane model. Um, Again, it's sort of, here it is now. I think the center is a lot more accurate here with the HMON. Further south, a little bit to the west. Um, I think it's really going to struggle between, I think, this evening throughout tomorrow, sort of afternoon, before it really all that energy and moisture gets into the southern Bahamas. Um, it's going to struggle. The terrain of Hispaniola is very mountainous, so it's going to sort of disrupt that, but it eventually does make it into the Bahamas. It eventually does start to strengthen here. We have a very sort of northern and western heavy precip load here with this, and then we have our sort of embedded, what I would most likely assume, storms and potential supercells on that northeastern quadrant. But this sort of slams into the Georgetown, Marls Inlet area of South Carolina. Um, this is like Monday afternoon. So again, Charleston would be seeing lots of rain on this sort of western edge. The northern and western edge of this seem to have most of the precipitation. And this is the HF's A. Has that circulation further north. Actually, first time looking at this. And then back to Cuba. Interesting. Again, like I said, I mean, these models are kind of struggling once it sort of hits Hispaniola. It's really struggling of where the center of this convection will be. But eventually, these models have a good idea of once it hits the Bahamas, it's going to really start to strengthen. And this is a lot slower. The HFA, we had landfall in the HOMON, HMON, at this time right here. And this is still out to sea, but it does eventually sort of hit the Hilton Head Island region. It just brings a stream of just heavy thunderstorms across southeastern North Carolina, northeastern South Carolina. A lot of that heavier rain is going to be on the north and western side again. But this is a much further southern track, um, and sort of just goes into central Georgia. But this is, again, probably like around a um, sort of tropical storm Cat 1 status. So uh, nothing crazy, but this is definitely strong enough to be paying attention to. This is, I think, just right outside of Cat 1. And we'll look at HFB, another just sort of hurricane model here. And again, just sort of, I don't actually, I mean, it has it sort of south of Hispaniola for the next 2 days. I don't know if that's going to be correct. It's going to be a lot slower if it is, a lot, and then, yeah, sort of hits the sort of Savannah, Hilton Head Island area, but it's a lot slower by like a day or so. That is something to look out for. But again, Cat 1. Um, so most of these short range models like the sort of strong tropical storm, the Cat 1. Um, but again, these will change. These are going to definitely change over the next few days. I, these all have sort of East Coast impacts, but a lot can change. A lot can sort of um, you know, direct this or steer this 94L invest. I do want to just sort of look here as our upper level low here. This is what's going to help it steer it into the East Coast. At first, I was thinking this would be something to watch for as well, but it's been very, very consistent that this thing sort of drops in and sort of sit over the southern Appalachians here and just help that thing steer in. And once 94L does start moving in, it pushes it back. It's not as strong, the upper level low, all that energy, and allows for a sort of East Coast impact, and even that moisture and that energy seems to want to wrap in, which would just I think amplify rainfall with this thing and during the East Coast throughout the East Coast. I think that's the main thing. I think the rainfall with this thing is going to be something to watch out for. And I do have the outlook here. This is going to be associated with that cold front across the southeast. Um, yeah, that marginal sort of flash flooding risk, nothing crazy. This is for Saturday here. That risk is further north into the mid-Atlantic, but still some parts of the southeast here. Day four, this is Sunday. This is where we're getting probably that moisture, leftover moisture from the cold front, and then moisture being sort of streamed in. And then this is Monday, and again we have that excessive rainfall outlook, and I think this will be upgraded to the slight risk at some point in the next few days once we have um, once we have better guidance, and if that guidance does still favor um, landfall. So just a quick sort of brief general update, nothing into in depth, much in depth, but um, East Coast definitely keep an eye on this the next day or two. Once people actually know it's going to hit, it's you're not gonna have much time to sort of prepare. Because I think we won't really know until Friday and Saturday, and the impacts are going to be most likely Monday. Um, so you'll have, usually we like to have, give people, you know, 3 to 5 days, in general, but we're going to have maybe 2 to 3. So just keep an eye on this. I don't think it's going to get too terribly strong. Um, I do think Cat 2 is not out of the question. Just in general with 94L, whether it goes out to sea or inland. But I think definitely a tropical storm and then maybe a weaker Cat 1 is definitely more probable here. Again, there is, there is some ensemble, some guidance that it still has it go out to sea. So this is just something we'll just have to keep an eye on the next few days, and especially this where how far south this sort of circulation is and all the convection. It could be messing up with the models here soon once they get a grasp on it. So just something to look at, and I will probably have another update in the next few days with this because this is definitely getting interesting. Definitely getting slightly worried. So that'll be it for this video, and I hope everyone has a great day.